Welcome to People and Profit. I'm Kate Moody. The automobile industry has been steering towards an electric future as deadlines to reduce emissions revolutionize the industry. In Europe, sales of both fully electric and hybrid cars have risen as costs drop and technology improves. Data from an industry group show that EU sales of electric vehicles overtook petrol cars for the first time in December of 2025, but they still accounted for less than a fifth of market share that year. It also means that competition within the industry is fierce and new players are challenging legacy car makers. Well, Zeekr is a Chinese brand. It's owned by the Geely Group and it specializes in luxury electric cars. And I'm joined today by Lothar Schuppe, CEO of Zeekr Europe. Thanks for being with us on the show today. Zeekr is set to start selling cars here in France in the coming months. Tell us when we can expect to see your cars on the roads here and what kind of consumers are you going to be targeting?
Yeah, so thank you for being here, and I really appreciate talking about France because it's a very important market for us. So our plan is to launch France in the next weeks. So the communication will go out soon, and what we will see in the next month is opening the first dealership. So in the first half of the year, we will have already in several cities of France partners and dealers who are able to sell and deliver our cars. And that is also where we rely on a strong distribution partner network, because this partner network has to target the local consumers. And we have, with our product portfolio, a wide range of 4 models, which are targeting different groups. One target group for sure is the private customers who are looking for a premium SUV or a shooting brake, which are ranging from a 4.40 meter up to a almost 5-meter car. And the second target group is the B2B customers who are looking for a company car where we provide, from price value proposition, which we always say, one of the benchmarks in the industry.
Now, France has its own homegrown car manufacturers, Peugeot, Citroën, Renault in particular. Why should French drivers be looking at Zeekr instead?
Yeah, I think it's not only in France, it's also in entire Europe. We have a lot of domestic brands and car manufacturers, and we had during the last years strong loyalty. But that loyalty during the last years went more and more down because especially Chinese car manufacturers, and we are one of them who are in the premium segment, will now make a big impact, because we are providing simply for the money people will spend much more car, much more technology, more performance, and also in our case, craftsmanship and luxury. And that is what has changed during the last month of consumer behavior. They're really looking for products which are, in terms of price value proposition, on the top. And there we are seeing already now in different other countries where we have launched that people coming with their traditional premium brand from European manufacturers, and they exchange it to a Zeekr.
Lothar, I want to talk a bit about regulations, so just bear with us for a moment, if you will. At the end of 2025, the European Union backtracked on its plans to ban sales of new petrol and diesel cars by 2035. The U-turn was welcomed by the auto industry, which had said the target was unrealistic, but it was slammed by environmental groups. Brian Quinn explains.
We move to the final vote on
It was hailed as a landmark step in the fight against climate change. In February 2023, the European Parliament officially approved a ban on the sale of new gasoline and diesel-powered cars as of 2035. EU leaders hopeful that the move would put the continent at the forefront of a worldwide shift to electric vehicles.
The Industrial Revolution is happening, whether we like it or not. We need to rebuild our industry on the basis of the future, and the car industry can lead this.
3 years later, that optimism has largely dissipated. The EU's industry commissioner warning that Europe's automobile sector, which accounts for nearly 14 million jobs and some 7% of GDP, is in mortal danger. Chaotic U.S. tariff policies have created an unpredictable export environment, while increasingly sophisticated Chinese imports create stiff competition. Meanwhile, EV adoption in the bloc has been slower than expected. Just 17.4% of new cars sold in Europe in 2025 ran on batteries. Industry leaders say EU governments have not invested enough in charging infrastructure and the electric grid, nor provided consistent consumer tax incentives to go electric. They've lobbied hard for the EU to water down its EV requirements. Under new proposals, by 2035, automakers will have to cut emissions from new cars by 90% instead of 100%, while vans will see their emissions reduction targets reduced from 50% down to 40% by 2030. EU battery makers, meanwhile, will get a boost from €1.5 billion in interest-free loans. Combustion engine gases will have to be offset by carbon credits generated by the production of low-emission steel and alternative fuels. Critics like Spain, France, and Scandinavian countries say relaxing the rules will only slow down the inevitable EV transition and discourage new investments. Road transport makes up around 1/5 of Europe's greenhouse gas emissions.
Lothar, European carmakers have widely welcomed this proposed shift in policy. As an electric carmaker, what is Zeekr's response?
I think the electrification and the adoption to electric mobility is happening. With an extension of CO2 emission a few years further, that will not change. Company car policies have already been established, and many big companies are changing to electric vehicles. And it's about sustainability, which is not only CO2 emission, it's about servicing intervals, oily engine parts, a lot of things which are really harming the environment. These are the things I think which are happening and taking place anyhow. And when you look into the consumer value, which is total cost of ownership, there are also a lot of advantages where the consumer will decide. And we see it during the last month and 1-2 years. Again, even in very traditional countries like Germany, also in France, that now the EV adoption is generating a little bit more acceleration, more pace. So I believe, and we believe, we only can drive sustainability forward with the right products for the right consumers who also see the value in electrification.
Let's shift to the issue of tariffs now. Electric vehicles that are made in China, as Zeekr cars are subject to tariffs of up to 45% in the European Union. Can you tell us what, if any, impact that has had on your sales so far and on your outlook?
Yeah, of course, when the tariffs have been announced, we had a big homework to do in our company, that we had to look into the business case of our brand and our products. Is it still sustainable, and being a business case to provide cars in Europe with all these tariff impact? But we did our exercise during last year, and we have found a way with a very agile and I would say a task force which really completed with even more opportunities, that we are able, with the price positioning we have been deciding on our cars, to continue with a sustainable business case. So even with the tariffs, we are clear, and we have announced it, that we are moving forward. Of course, we are looking into options in terms of local production, in terms of getting even more efficient, but that is nothing we can announce. But what is clear, the tariffs have not held us back to offer to consumers these cars where we are now.
Does Zeekr receive subsidies from the Chinese government?
Of course, I mean, the discussion has been now for many months happening, and I think we are, with our business model, very, very efficient. And of course, it is discussed a lot. But when you look into the factories in China, and when you look into the R&D process, and I have spent 2 decades or more than 2 decades in a traditional car manufacturer, you see the advantages and the efficiencies. It's not about subsidies from governments. It's really having lean, efficient processes, having agile organizations, and having innovative factories and a supply chain and an end-to-end vehicle process, which helps us to be so efficient and profitable in our end-to-end processes.
Zeekr cars are part of the premium market, targeting potentially more upscale clients. Can a new brand compete with the status and name recognition of some of the bigger European players?
Yeah, you're touching a very important point. That is for sure one of our big challenges, and we don't deny that we are still at a starting point of building a brand. And it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Our clear vision is to build step by step to gain the trust of the consumers with best products and segments, delivering on expectations, and also on service quality and on the backbone which consumers expect. So year on year, we will create more awareness and also perception. And our goal is very clearly defined. We want to be one of the top players in Europe, and as Zeekr in the premium segment, also climbing to the podium of the premium segments.
Is there enough charging infrastructure for electric vehicles here in France, or are you looking at possible cooperation with the likes of Volvo, also part of the Geely Group?
I think the charging stations is one of the big anxieties we have been facing during the last years. But I think all the users of cars who have been now experiencing the fast charging of vehicles, for example, our Zeekr 7X charges in only 12 minutes from 10 to 80, which already gives you more or less the same time like with a combustion engine when you refuel it. You don't need a highly dense charging network with long lines waiting for the charging station. And it is progressing over the years tremendously. If I'm just looking at our consumer behavior, they are using a lot still home charging where they have possibilities. But the usage of fast charging and the fast charging network is, from our point of view, in most of the countries already sufficient. We do see some potential in the southern European countries where the networks are still under progression and they're growing step by step. But especially in Central and Northern Europe, we are already very, very well established.
Lothar Schuppe, CEO of Zeekr Europe, thank you so much for joining us on People and Profit today. And thank you for watching. Don't forget you can catch up with our previous shows on the France 24 website or as a podcast wherever you usually listen. Stay tuned to France 24.